Uh, hey everyone. Um, I know everyone's blowing up my old um, what is it? Saints Row video. Because we're talking about that in the news again. But I wanted to talk about two topics real quick. One really quickly, the other one related. Um, so we are at this point now where we've seen the trailer for She-Hulk, and in a way, it's kind of I'm happy it's all positive with the exception of the way she looks. Um, those who are looking for a show that is more hulky with a lot of action and craziness, or a lot of more action, um, are going to be slightly disappointed because, again, I She-Hulk is more of a comedy. Um, Sadly, I've never read the Sensational She-Hulk. I started for a little bit and then I didn't get a chance to finish it because my access was gone. Uh, the one I did read was I think it was Dan Slott one, um, which is where the majority of the Attorney of Law is being used, as the inspiration is being taken from. Um, so that said, the big problem is the uncanny valley of She-Hulk in this depiction, which surprisingly, yeah, I get. As you watch her, I'm doing something real quick. As you watch She-Hulk through this entire um, short trailer, there's this moment where you're just looking at her and you're like, something's off. Something's very, very off, and it's bugging me. Uh, and what's funny is it didn't, I think it took me a few days, like yesterday or something, when I was looking at what was the name of the group? Clownfish something. I don't know. They put Shrek. I'm not going to pull it up for you, but they took Shrek and they took Fiona from Shrek and put it next beside She-Hulk, and it really kind of just confirmed the problem with She-Hulk, and how surprisingly Marvel might actually be able to fix it without having to do a lot of re-editing, right? Yes. What we got in the trailer might not be the finished product, but if any Marvel person's out there, or if anyone knows anyone linked to Marvel, or if you could just shove this in someone's face to try and fix this problem, let me show you the subtle change that might actually fix this entire run of She-Hulk for the better. I pulled up these three images to show you one simple thing that might change everything. I always thought to myself when I looked at She-Hulk, when I looked at the trailer, I thought, oh gosh, they didn't make her green enough, right? Something I thought was the problem. I thought the shade of green is wrong. They're trying to emulate Hulk, Smart Hulk, whatever he's now. And it's the problem with the green. It's actually not the problem with the green. It's kind of like in that whole, like, it's the other colors that is messing up the problem. In other words, if you pay attention to She-Hulk here, that red in the lips is not evident in any other version of She-Hulk. That's throwing off the colors. There's too much red in there. And surprisingly, if you look at Hulk, it does the exact same thing, but because Hulk's face and manner and bulkiness is not part of the uncanny valley, we're not as disturbed by it. I mean, we are slightly disturbed by the Smart Hulk, and that's the one thing I've always bugged me about it. But look at Hulk in the same way. in the trailers, and you'll see that same red. They're trying to retain a little bit of the human in there, and that's the problem. That's where the fault comes in. In other words, the fastest way of fixing She-Hulk in this, and I'm sorry for my editing, is to darken the lips. That's it. That's your problem. The red is throwing off everything about She-Hulk. Every single time you look at her, the reason why there's an uncanny valley with this character is because there's one little essence that is still human that's throwing us completely off, and it's all in the lips. Change the hue of those lips, and instantly we have our She-Hulk. Yes, I see all the other reds inside of there, but the real problem is we're all staring at her mouth, especially that horrible animated weird mouth that she does when she looks at when she's swiping left, right, and sees the guy she's going to date. That's it. That's the simplest change ever right there. Surprising, huh? And this is me doing some really bad hue change in the editor, but that's it. That's the change that will fix this entire show. So Marvel, if you're out there, anyone, Disney, someone, pay attention to this. All right, this is it. This is the fix. Like, she looks 10 times better now, because all you need to do is change the lips. The red is throwing off all the beautiful green. Cool. All right, moving on. The next thing I want to talk about is the problem with Hulk. Not the problem with Hulk. Well, yes and no. And it's I'm going to dive into my other paper. But this is a great scene. I'm going to switch over to it. One of the things that bugs me about that, always gets me with Endgame, when we're really focusing mostly on Endgame, is Endgame likes to go back and harken on older moments in actually, I'm not going to put it up high. I'm going to stick it like this. Endgame's whole thing is remembering the past, just replaying old events from the movies, which is great and all. But my biggest problem is how they ended up dealing with Widow, Hawkeye, and especially Hulk. When we first when we ended with Infinity War, Hulk was so scared he couldn't get out. And then all of a sudden, he's out again, working with Banner, which is weird. So I'm going to take this scene. This is a beautiful scene. Early in the first Age of Ultron. That is a beautiful scene. Age of Ultron, right? They're sitting at the edge. They're hanging there. She really needs Banner to come out. She kisses him, throws him off the edge, and just kind of starts the will they, won't they story of the relationship. Eyelash in eye. All right. So that's cool and all, right? And then when we get to Endgame, we have this whole situation where we're faced with another pit, another drop, and yet we're focusing on Hawkeye and Widow's friendship, which is great and all, don't get me wrong. But by the time we hit here, everyone's in a totally different place, right? And then for some dumb reason, again, Banner and Hulk got together and said, let's just share the same body. What? All right. So this is going to be my what if moment. If I could write. This is my, why can't I? Oh, because I didn't have that on. What if moment when it comes to these three? What if Banner was the one who fell? What if Banner was the one who lost his life? So let's bring up my three act structure. To do this, we have to focus on the one aspect that we left off 5 years later, right? So this is going to be Endgame. And we're only going to focus on the three characters, right? And I'm going to try to remember this from memory because I didn't actually watch it. It's been a long time since I watched this, and I'm just like throwing stuff out there. I'm sorry. So correct me later in the comments if you feel like doing that. So 5 years after the events of Infinity War, what if Bruce's whole thing is he's been Bruce for 5 years. He's finally free of the Hulk. He's there. He's hiding still. He's that traumatized. Hulk is that traumatized by the entire event that he does not want to come out. 5 years, Bruce has been normal. And it's bugging him. Because he realized over 5 years of slight grief, he realizes he could have been something. This is that moment where he finally says, I could have done something, but I can't. Widow is still doing what she's doing. Oh, there you go. Is still doing exactly what she's doing in the story, but she's helping Bruce along with his grief as well. They're kind of slowly getting together, right? They've gotten closer over the 5 years. How about that? Hawkeye is still running around as Rogue, doing exactly what he's doing. We're not going to mess up the events of that and anything after that. These are the same. These are exactly what's happening in the story, keeping it the same way. So when the problem happens, where Thanos, they need to get the stones and try to fix the problem and everything else, everything still kind of happens. The whole diner scene where Banner is like, "Oh, I'm Banner, Hulk, smart Hulk, whatever," is like, "Yeah, look at me," all the kids love me now. That's gone. That silliness is gone. That's dumb. Moving on. So what we do is once everyone splits up, the split up is totally different. Bruce and Widow go together to get the Soul Stone. I think it's the Soul Stone. Is it Soul Stone? Whatever, that stone, right? They team up to get the stone, not Hawkeye and Widow. Hawkeye actually goes to see the Sorcerer Supreme. You want a stealthy person to go in and steal the stone from a wizard, not the big Bruce Banner guy, not the big Hulk guy. You don't go with force, you go with stealth. Hawkeye goes to fight. This is a nice kung fu fight if you want to do, or whatever, martial arts fight. Where, yes, same thing happens. I'm trying to draw a palm. I could draw, trust me. Just not in this angle. Hawkeye gets pushed out of his body. And the same conversation happens anyway. But this time, we're dealing with frustration as opposed to understanding. He's done so much killing. He's done so much stuff. He was willing to go ahead, do something even worse, but he gets pushed out of his body, right? And the same scene goes on, but more of a student trying to explain something to a frustrated child, not two intellectuals talking about time and whatever. So this whole thing could just be like Hawkeye trying to understand it and say like, so like Back in the Future or something like that, right? Blah, 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 blah. Like dumb movie references, that always happens. But keep that interaction away. Keep him away from what the real true strength of the story is going to be about, right? As we get to the edge, Red Skull standing there staring down, Red Skull standing there staring down at everyone to explain the entire thing. We have the conversation. Who's going to jump? Right? I'm putting these in the wrong places. Don't worry about it. Bruce or a Widow? And they continue to talk, and he's no match for Widow as she wants to jump over. And it's the craziest thing, but Bruce is struggling as much as possible because he's weak and he's trying to talk his way out of it instead of fighting her. She's pushing him aside. They're fighting. They get closer and closer and closer to the edge. And as they get closer and closer and closer to the edge, let me see if I can grab it real quick. As they get closer and closer to the edge, they get back in that same position like I showed in this video. They end up here. Yeah, okay, let's go back to this spot. They end up at this moment, but instead of some ship where she throws him off, they're at the edge of the cliff, and Bruce finally gets a hold of her and says, I'm going to miss you, making her think she's about to go. He's accepted her. He kisses her, they spin. He throws her back as he falls off the edge. Bruce is dying. Yes, this is my what if. Bruce Banner jumps, sacrifices himself. Actually, let's go back to this moment. Bruce Banner jumps, sacrifices himself. He tumbles to the edge. She freaks because she doesn't want to lose anyone. No one wants to lose anyone. It's the exact same thing playing out all over again from Endgame, but totally different people. Bruce jumps off the edge and he tumbles to his death. He tumbles, he gets to his death. She doesn't say that. And that comes back. Bruce falls to his death. He actually hits. And when what comes out of the hole is Hulk. And instead of being happy to see her, he drops down to his knees and starts crying. The soul, the entity that is Bruce Banner, did die when it fell. And all that's left is a Hulk. Done. Bruce Banner we know of is no more. And only Hulk survives. So from here on in, the entire moment, the thing that's going on with it feels like no one's gone, but when everyone realizes something's off, that's what it hits. Everyone's like, "Oh, Bruce, you can do it." Oh, Bruce is gone. He's gone. Gone. Oh, gone. Gone. And the reason we could get to this point now is because with the last Thor movie, he was able to communicate himself. He was able to communicate on the planet, on the war planet. He found himself as Hulk. They are two different entities now. He's not a raging psychopath. He's actually calm and something. So now Hulk gets the stone, gets the Infinity Gauntlet, my Infinity Gauntlet. Same thing. He uses the stones, but because of his intense healing, it's probably gonna be a bit shorter. Infinity Gauntlet, yeah. It's gonna be a shorter heal time, but he goes full Hulk in this situation because he is so stricken with grief. So when you get to that final fight, even though everyone is attacking, yes, the Captain America shield thing happened, the Captain America thing happens with the, spoiler and all that stuff. But when Hulk goes up against Thanos, this is like 5 years of full release and rage that's been building up. All the emotion of Hulk comes in this moment. We don't see a Hulk going crazy and nuts. You have a Hulk who's emotionally lost everything. And he beats Thanos the best his possible ability. But of course, that doesn't stop it. It feels better when someone who's been pent up with so much rage and emotion finally gets something, an ounce of whatever he can, even with one hand, right? Captain Marvel taking on Thanos is nice, but there's no history. This is history. This is emotion. This is what should have happened. Now, why am I bringing this whole thing up? Right? As well as why am I bringing up She-Hulk? Oh, what just happened here? I did accidentally do something. All right, there we go. That's what I meant. So why am I bringing up She-Hulk and the lips? Remember the blips, right? Because once you have that established moment, 5 years of Bruce, and then after that Banner, after that Hulk, now when you introduce She-Hulk in the storyline, the She-Hulk story can be the story of Bruce and Jennifer Walters. That's what it was. You clearly understand that what's going on can be within the 5 years, right? Or it could be earlier than that. It doesn't matter, because the greatest thing about the Dan Slott's creation is it plays out kind of like Shield, the TV show, where the events are going on in the background, but we come back to the courtroom to see the legal ramifications of everything. This doesn't have to be within 5 years. The first series of She-Hulk could also be all the things that were happening behind the scenes everywhere else, right? They bring in Civil War and the Sloth Run. They bring out all these little things that happened already in the Marvel Universe, comics and movies, that this whole situation with She-Hulk could have started well before that. So when we run into season 2 of this, and the very first person she interacts with is Hulk, you know this is 5 years later. This is after Endgame, right? That's my idea. Do I like Endgame? It was good. Am I excited for She-Hulk? Yes, but not those lips. But thank you for listening, and hopefully I'll get a chance to talk about what is it? Saints Row, and my decisive take on the third game. So next time. All right. See ya.